Hi, I'm Jay Gruenke, founder of the Balanced Runner System. I've been helping runners from beginner to Olympian improve their form and performance since 2003. And I'm here today with another stuck-at-home running form tip for you, from my living room to yours, helping you use this time as an opportunity to become a better runner. So hope you had a good weekend. I'm going to try and finish up on the subject of how to shift your running form to run faster today. I think that I'm on my last item on my list. So I stood up a little too soon. I don't want to bend over talking to you. So today's tip is how to use your hips to run faster, meaning your pelvis. And a lot of people who are working on their speed, they're working on their form, they're working on their core strength, and probably even their core stability. And as I've said in many other videos and blog posts, and definitely look back in this series, in fact, there are specific movements that your core needs to do in running. And when you optimize those, rather than trying to restrict them, you run easier and you run faster and you feel much, much happier. So I'm going to show you now how to tip your pelvis to run faster. So say you don't. Say you hold your pelvis completely level when you run. All right, in which case you're probably also keeping it from tipping forward, but that's a different video. So if you do that, then when you push off, all you have to push off with is your leg, right? And so I'm going to lie on the floor to make my point. So in that case, all you have, let's see, to push off with is this, right? Here's your swing leg, and you land, and then you push off. That's the only, and it's just these muscles through into your glutes that you have to push off with. There's some strong muscles there, but you could be using more. Because you could also be using your obliques, the muscles along the side of your spine, even your intercostals to some degree, potentially, and recruiting more fully your glutes by moving your pelvis. So like this. So I can actually push off the ground without even using any of my, why am I having trouble with that today? Here's push off, right? Land, push off, right? Without even using this capacity of my legs, I can push off using just my pelvis. I can, in fact, walk peg leg using just my pelvis. You don't even have to bend either knee, like this. And you could try that right now. The fun thing about that is when you do it, your upper body immediately starts to turn as well, because these movements are interwoven in the human body. So it's hard to do, but I can even jump without ever bending my knee. My sweet 11-year-old is in the other side of the room trying it too. You couldn't resist, could you? My living room to yours, guys. So he's even better at it than me. So if you combine those, you have twice as much of your body to push off with. And that's where you get, and this happens spontaneously when you hop on one foot, right? Because you really, if I really try to keep my pelvis level, I start having balance problems, right? My standing knee starts coming into my midline. Hello, IT band problems. It's really hard. And then it's really hard to keep your pelvis from dipping. But if you push off with your pelvis too, I overdid it and started moving the other direction, then I got a lot higher, right? And my balance was better. My knee didn't come into my midline. So you want to be using all of that when you run, and especially when you're accelerating or just plain running fast. So you need that. And I was just talking about that in terms of muscle power, but it's also elastic storage and return of energy, right? So you get tissues are stretched all through the whole side of your body if you're better in mid stance by compression, if your pelvis movement is part of that, and then if you allow that recoil to happen, then you get more energy return because it's also happening through your torso than if, again, you try and use only your leg. I've got some questions here from Jan, fantastic. And Marco, great. Glad you folks are here. I'm going to circle back to your questions at the end of the video. So sit tight. I want to show something else. So that energy storage and then, muscular push off, you get more when you're using your core and your hips, when you're allowing your hips to tip side to side, than if you're just using your leg and trying to keep your pelvis still. All right. Another thing that allowing your hips to tip so that you get, this action in your running is you raise your center of mass a little bit more through late stance. So let me see if I can demonstrate this. So here I'm in mid stance, right? My knee's bent. Oops, I should be a little more leaned, but anyway, depends on how fast I'm going. Not very fast at the moment. So if I'm not going to let my pelvis tilt, I raise my center of mass this much. Or sorry, let me see, this much, going towards toe off. So my heel is coming off the ground, right? But so you can watch my head relative to the door behind me, how high it gets. All that I change is I straighten my leg and I go up onto the ball of my foot, not to my toes. But I hope I don't knock any furniture over. If I do that extra pelvis tilt, look at how much higher my head went. I'm still on the same angle forward, but I have raised my center of gravity higher. So my head actually, the way it looks in my screen is my head actually crossed the top of the door jamb there. So again, so I'm going to put my hands here with just my leg. That's all I've got. With my leg and my pelvis, I go higher by half an inch, something like that. And so so your center of gravity has your body is already higher in the air before you even leave the ground. Now, obviously, if you're not leaning forward sufficiently, that means that you're going to have some crazy vertical oscillation happening. But if you're leaning forward, you're looking at just a longer flight phase from each step, which is going to help with your speed. And you also get a longer stride length out of that because, all right, now depending on the sofa, I think I'm going to end up driving my knee into this sofa, but we'll see. Okay, so say, all right, mid stance, late stance, toe off. If I don't, I'm keeping my pelvis level. Since you're looking just from the side, you have to take my word for it. Sorry, I'm supposed to be bringing my swing knee through, right? Yeah, I'm going to have a problem. But if I also tilt my pelvis, yeah, unfortunately, because my knee can't pass through the sofa, you can't see the difference. But let me try and show it from the front. So it's a single scissoring action. Like A with the pelvis also going, you have more time and distance. The swing leg can come farther forward. So from that perspective also, you're like, in terms of where your limbs are, like flight can be longer just because of the angle you take off from the ground, the amount of force that you have, and then also, are you organized so that your front leg is going to be in position to catch you? And so that's where, people start looking at hip extension and hamstring flexibility for stride length, right? And that is going to work better when the pelvis also tilts. I'm getting tired of doing, well, I should stick to one side. So here, oops, without my pelvis tilting, I've got that. Hopefully you can see this from the front. And if I tilt my pelvis, I get my legs farther apart. So that would be quite an enormous stride length right there. But also, this also happens because the scissoring action of the legs, when it also involves the pelvis and the trunk, when it's a whole body action, it is a single action. And doing any one part of it improves all of it, right? And this is particularly true if you do it from through the leg and the side of the pelvis, the stance side, because because that's where the force is directed through in late stance to toe off. So if you hold your pelvis still, then you've got kind of two legs operating more or less independently. But if the pelvis also this side, it really drives downwards. You see, it's a very powerful movement. This leg pops up and forward like as if by itself. All right. So that just increases your speed without much additional effort. In many cases, and reduces your effort really significantly. So those are the two, but all of that only works if you lean forward. I'll say it again, because if you're doing this movement vertically, then it's just pushing you higher up into the air. And in fact, you're not really getting that boost of the scissoring action of your legs. So there has to be a forward lean. And my first 4 videos in this series were about the forward lean, so you can go back and look at those. I'm going to come now for questions. I'm excited to see what these are. This is honestly the most difficult thing to demonstrate in my living room, so I hope that was clear. Okay, I'm going to take Jan says, thanks a lot for the very useful videos. How would you put priority on each of the tips you've recently, in order of importance? Lean forward, head position, arm movement, foot loosen. Yeah, anyway, let's see. What's the order of importance of recent tips for running faster? Lean forward, head position, arm movement, foot loosened, and this. Forward lean is essential. And the head and face forward is connected with forward lean. So you really can't do a good forward lean without face forward. So we couldn't really separate those. Arm movement. Let's see, foot loosened. Meaning that, yeah, the top of the foot relaxed. Probably would be next. It's hard to prioritize these because, I'm separating out things that are fundamentally connected and that play into each other. So you're going to get a better pelvis action with your head slid forward and your arms working right. I mean, the ankles are huge. But if, say you were a coach and you wanted to get like you give one recommendation that will get the biggest improvement in speed for an average runner, it would probably be to slide your head forward, because that's going to elicit a lean and also free the core up to where it's going to free everything to work up to work better. And so the lean is implied in that. And the second thing I would probably look at would be relaxing the feet, the tops of the feet. And the third thing is probably arm technique. And the fourth thing would be calling this out. But if the pelvis isn't moving at all, you have to work on that before it even makes sense to work on their speed. That's my best answer to that question. I hope that it made sense. You might have to listen to it twice, but thank you for a great question, Jan. Marco says, why did I say hello IT band? Is a position that overuses it. Yeah, so if you're, I mean, my fundamental understanding of IT band syndrome is that it happens when you're not shifting your weight enough side to side. And in fact, actually, I'm not going to demo that because A, that would take, that'd be a second whole video, but B, because the lesson that I'm going to give you to help you start to work on this ability to use your pelvis as part of your energy storage and return mechanism in running, and to lengthen your stride and help you run faster. That lesson is embedded at the bottom of a blog post on IT band syndrome. So I'm going to pop that in the description as soon as I'm done with this live stream. And so read the description, read that blog post, and that'll give you the explanation for why this is connected to IT band syndrome, why failing to let your pelvis tip in running is connected to IT band syndrome, and how helping your pelvis or allowing your pelvis, learning for your pelvis to naturally move that way in running really relieves IT band syndrome for a lot of runners. Sometimes there are also twisting things needed through the lower legs, and sometimes there are idiosyncratic things going on. But as far as overall general movement patterns, that's the most powerful one I found. So take a look at that blog post. Just give me 5 minutes when we're done here to get it posted in the description. See, Marco says, it's a shame many people recommend to stabilize the pelvis and not allowing it to tip. I completely agree. Adelino says, when you lean, you feel like you're going to face plant. No. And if you feel like you're going to face plant, you're not leaning right. And because, oh, that's great. I should just do a video on that, Adelino. But just very briefly, because when you're leaning, you're not a flat board leaning sideways. You're body where the two sides of your body are moving opposite each other all the time. So two sides meaning diagonally. So you've got one diagonal of your body is extending and falling, while the other diagonal of your body is getting in place to catch you. And when so that's why your core action is fundamental for being able to lean. And that's why I say if a person's pelvis isn't moving, there's no point working on speed yet. Your brain won't let you lean forward, and even if you kind of manage it, you'll feel like you're falling. You'll feel afraid. You feel like you can barely catch yourself, and there's all sorts of tug of war going in your body while you're trying to make yourself lean, and your brain is like, but no, but we're about to fall. One little trip on a little stone and face plant. So when your core action is working really well, you never feel like you're falling. You never feel any risk or danger in leaning. You feel like your internal sense is almost like you're standing upright, not because in space you feel vertical, but because you feel that secure. So if you feel like you're going to face plant, you're either trying to force yourself to lean too much, or your core action isn't working the way it needs to be. And so your nervous system is correctly identifying that you may not be able to catch yourself the way that you're running. So that's what you should work on. Let me see. Adelino yesterday for a 6:34 mile pace to a 20:36 5K. My stride rate was 197. Too much? No. You know, based on the previous question you asked me, Adelino, I'm going to say probably your stride rate is too high because your stride length is too low. I mean, it's not, this varies from body to body, your size, and speed for you. But I mean, I once counted Haile Gebrselassie stride rate in a half marathon at 220. I think I counted right. It was definitely over 200. Whereas, Mo Farah's was down like around 190 at the same, running together. So stride rate is speed dependent. The faster you're running, especially, I think it's also runner dependent, though I haven't seen any research for that. Like how fast for you are you running, not for like compared to all other human beings. So yeah, the faster you're running, the higher your stride rate. Then it's higher even if you're accelerating, but you're giving me an overall. Yeah, but I'm just going to back it up and say that I bet that your stride is shorter than would be optimal, and your stride rate obviously will come down if your stride length goes up until you get a better balance. Jim says how to perform while running slower. Jim, hold tight. My next sequence of videos is going to be on how to run slower, so hold tight. Sam says, yes, it's an elliptic movement, not a high hip pattern. Yes, exactly. So yeah, the sides of the pelvis kind of do this kind of movement, really, you know. So and which goes like this, right? So it goes up and forward, down and back. Up and let me see if I can do this. So that's me again walking without bending my knees, so that I have to use my pelvis in order to get my foot off the ground. Forward, down, and back, right? If I don't put my hands on my hips, then I counter rotate, which is more like running. Let me see. Jan, oh, you're welcome, Jan. Marco, you're welcome. Adelino, you're welcome. Okay, looks like we're done here. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope it blew your mind, and I hope it'll blow you down the track of the road next time you run. Definitely to start learning what I'm talking about, click on the resource in the description below. If you found this video valuable, hit like so that YouTube knows to share it with other runners who need this information. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and check out all the other great resources I have for you on balancedrunner.com. And I will see you tomorrow.